Coming to you live from their studio in South Florida, Twist Gaming. Featuring lead broadcaster, Matt Koza. Co-host and creative genius, Josh Perry. Co-host and interviewer extraordinaire, Ann Lazito. Co-host and marketing mogul, Aaron Murphy. With appearances from special guest, Lucy. Welcome to Twist Gaming, where you get to play board games with us.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This is Twist Gaming. I'm Matt.
I'm Ann.
I'm Josh.
And this is our first impression session of our Spotlight stream, where we talk about our favorite aspects of the game we just played, any constructive criticisms we might have, and the most important question of the evening of would we play it again. And tonight we had the pleasure of spotlighting 1001 Odyssey by Asmati Games. Big shout out to Asmati Games for sponsoring this stream and all of this week's streams. And if you are watching on video on demand and haven't had a chance to watch our playthrough of 1001 Odysseys, you're missing out. Take a minute, or an hour technically, go back, watch it. It was a lot of fun. But let's just jump into the meat and potatoes of things right now. So typically our format here is we talk to the person that won the game and get their opinion first, but this doesn't really have winners. This is an experience-based game, so
We're all winners.
we're all winners, deep down, for having listened to my voice reading through the script of the book here. So I'm just going to start us out here, and then we can walk it down the line. So real quick, though, before we begin, Josh, what kind of game is 1001 Odysseys?
It's a choose-your-own-adventure narrative game.
Pretty simply put, yeah.
We are going to make choices, and the story changes based on our choices.
Right, and
a little bit more interactive than a typical choose-your-own-story novel, because there's a lot more options for you to do.
Right.
A lot more different interactions.
And the interaction is within your team. We've got 4 individual player roles that you can either pair up with people or play multiple roles for yourself. They're the commander, the navigator, the operations, and the information role. And they each have different assignments to them, and you can really get into the theme of the game to play along. And is based in space. We're space explorers. So
It's based in space.
Based in space. Based in space. So my favorite aspects of this game here is, first of all, I really like that this isn't a choose-your-own-adventure story that takes itself far too seriously. I feel like that's kind of prevalent, whatever the word is there. Prevalent, where you've got like, if it's fantasy themed, you're getting ready to fight the ogres, and there's demons and blah blah, and dragons are trying to kill you, and there's all that stuff. There's for space-based, evil aliens that are trying to conquer the galaxy, something to that effect. We were interacting with turnip people and cute little dragon people.
They were asleep.
They were asleep. We didn't really interact with them. We stole a cabbage spaceship.
And I poked him with a stick.
You did poke them with a stick. They were talking in their sleep. It was kind of
Cool.
funny. And the dragon person that we were interacting with was punny.
Yeah, it was like 2 paragraphs of puns.
Like back-to-back rapid-fire puns. So I enjoyed the fact that this is a very light-hearted game that can be easily enjoyed with family and non-gamers. I don't think you need to be a gamer to enjoy this game at all. You just basically, as Chris was saying from Asmati, you need one person that's capable of running the operations board, and then everyone else can just be part of the experience, making decisions, playing along, interacting, and doing that. I think that that's a big draw of the game, is that it's not too weighty, but it has a lot of meat to it. As he was saying, there are 4 books, about 8 chapters per book, and you don't get a chance to see everything in each section you do. So in our demo, we saw maybe 1.5% of the content of 1001 Odysseys.
So I think they said during a normal playthrough, you see about 30% of the content.
Interesting. So it definitely encourages replayability, and one of the things that encourages it as well is the fact that, and you are the antithesis to this. The one thing you brought up was we need to explore every option because that's what you do. And they made a point of not letting you do that. And I thought that was really cool because
Sure you did.
there would be 0%. As soon as you said that, I'm just like, no, you're not. It forces your hand in that when you do X number of choices, it kind of propels the story forward in a certain direction. So that way you don't get stuck miring around in the same thing like I have to talk to every person because what if I missed a snippet of information and that might come back to haunt me. It gives you the opportunity to make a willy-nilly quest if you want to, kind of like we did today, or really do the hard-nosed investigative route of I am going to do everything that makes logical sense.
No, we
and
went to
move
the
forward.
garden because I wanted to see flowers.
And we stole a cabin spaceship.
Yeah, right.
So those are some things that really spoke to me about the game. I'm going to go ahead and pass it down the line. So, Anne, what's some things that you enjoyed about the playthrough today?
You know, Matt, you had a lot of the points that I really enjoyed about this. I am somebody who really enjoys RPGs, but not necessarily tabletop RPGs, because I think there's a lot of performance involved. Sometimes, depending on your gaming group, there's a lot of performance involved in a tabletop RPG, and while that's fun, it takes sometimes can take a lot of commitment. You know, getting a character set up, making a personality, all the rest of that. I like having a story and kind of getting lost in it and having something already established for me. And this is exactly what this is. I wouldn't consider this necessary. This when you hear choose your own adventure, my mind immediately goes to like a Goosebumps choose your own adventure where you're flipping through the book pages to see how you can land and not die. And, you know, that was another thing that Julia and Chris made sure to make it a point in this game, Julia and her team, that you can't die in this game, that it's just a different adventure. It's just a different path, meeting different and new people. And I think that that's really exciting. I also brought up the art in the game. I mean, as you can see in the backdrop here, the art's absolutely gorgeous, and that definitely carries through to all of the other components of the game. I mean, look at this map. It's really fantastic. And when you have really good art, especially in an RPG game, it brings you into the world that the designer and the developer, you know, the designer is trying to bring you into. It makes it that much more of an immersive experience. I also really thought, you know, here I am talking about the art and how pretty and immersive it is. I liked how they utilized this map. There's a lot of puzzly elements to this game, and I like that. I really like a good puzzle. And what you do is you're told which one of these map pieces to grab, but you don't really you're not really explicitly told where to place this tile on the full map. And what you need to do is use the background of the card and line it up to the space on the map that it matches. So here you have the P here for Pollet, and I'm going to line that P right up there. Now you are given the guidelines here, these little dashed lines on the card, and as you can see around the edges of the boards, you have grids, and this tells you where each one of the adventures is. So you'll use this information in other ways. So with the book, it kind of gives you codes throughout to help guide you through. There's the mission control board, and when you complete a mission, you know, you have to follow the words from left to right, and that tells you where to go in the book. It kind of gives me almost an escape room feel.
Yeah, I could definitely see where you're coming from with that. There's you fill up the different areas of the mission board with the different actions that are completed based off the story elements, and that is what leads you to different story elements.
Yeah.
So you're trying to configure what you do to fill the slots up potentially in a specific way, whereas the game also just drives you forward very easily. So it narrows it down to you have a talk action. You're going to go to talk to someone.
Right.
Instead of you could do whatever you want, and you get lost in the choices.
Right, and we were talking a little bit about my completionist and how I wanted to talk to everybody, but that does a good way of taking my completionist drive of wanting to talk to everybody and really pointing me in the correct direction of the story. Like, I know we were at one spot where the option was tinker, and I couldn't tinker at wherever we were, and you're like, no, so you have to match it up here. So it definitely does eloquently navigates the story along.
And one of the things I do want to point out before we progress any further, you see some of these components on the board. This is a prototype version of the game that we have on the table here. So these are not finalized components that you're seeing. So bear with us and keep that in mind as we move forward. So Josh, how about you? What are some aspects of the game that really popped for you?
You guys hit a lot of points. One thing I want to mention, there was 15 location cards that we didn't use. There's 4 on the table.
Yeah, I really want to see the rest of it.
So, like...
Yeah, I mean, we did, as Chris was saying, and I don't mean to step on your toes here, if all the demo playthroughs that he did, He said this is the first time he's seen anyone progress past
Doing
Quest
Quest 2.
1,
No, Quest 2.
completing Quest 2 without doing anything in Quest 1.
No, without getting an action card into Quest 2. We
Oh,
never got an
correct,
action
correct.
ability
That's what
in
it
Quest
was.
2.
Yeah, we never actually did an
anything to
action
complete it.
specifically for Quest 2. It was all byproduct of Quest 1.
Of just fumbling around.
Yeah,
We're just that good.
sure, we'll go with that.
Some of the other cool things that I know from the Kickstarter is, so if you go back to the board camp,
Yep.
all the maps are not this size. Some of them are bigger. Some of them might be smaller.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's one map that's probably like twice the size of this.
That's really cool.
So it's really dependent on the location you're going to.
That makes a lot of sense, though, because not all planets are the same size, not all cities are the same size. That's actually really cool.
Yeah, so depending on where you're going, it's going to be very interesting. The reason I know that is because someone was asking, can we get neoprene mats of all these? And he's like, that would cost as much as the game because of how many different maps there are. And some of the sizes of them. But it's a really cool thing. It's just there's a lot of different maps and stuff, and these locations do get pretty big. I was even looking through the location cards. Some of these location cards are identical, but they have different options on them depending on how we got to them.
Oh.
Ooh.
So I can't really spoil anything, but it's just a little interesting of, if you go to a location this way, maybe it uses a different card
That's really cool.
that limits your options. So
And-
playthrough says that location could come up again, but it could be slightly different.
And I like the fact that we probably would have been able to do what we just did if we went and we tinkered with our own spaceship. Maybe we would have.
But we wouldn't have had a turnip ship.
A cabbage ship.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm intrigued as to what it could be. I already want to replay this one singular chapter scenario already because I want to see what the other things are, which is, it speaks volumes because I don't feel like it would be a repetitive exercise. I feel like it would be another take on the adventure.
And we played at, if you guys look, we did a video at PAX, and we didn't get all the way through the session. We got maybe halfway. And I think one of the first things we did was we went to the anchors to find rich people to fix their ship.
Did we?
Yeah, that was what we did. But then we ended up going someplace else and just totally different sidetrack.
Right. From what I remember, we met another one of those elements, the lizard people.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a diva-ish element that was pretending to be a plumplim, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it was an actress elements that wanted to be a plumplim.
But let's show everybody and this goes back to the art design, but where did it go? That's a plum
This is
plim.
a gorgeous plumplim right here.
And that's an elements.
Yeah, correct. But it was very amusing.
She was she was a very famous actress, so she was all mad that we didn't know who she was.
Right, she thought we wanted her autograph. And we're like, look, it's a plumplim who's not asleep. And we go chase after her. And she's like, no autographs. And we're like, what?
Which is just really cool of everything that you kind of do in this game. And
Because, in all honesty, we played for, about an hour 15 this session. Last session we played for 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's the same story, but we got drastically different things happen to us.
we didn't get quite as far.
No.
I love how the same level of humor, though, seems to be in every interaction. It's that, lighthearted, punny, cute kind of humor, and it makes you really enjoy the characters that you're interacting with. The guy's talking to a filing cabinet. I totally want to talk to the dude, giving the filing cabinet a pep talk.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. Anything else either of you two want to talk about right now?
I did want to touch on one thing, and that is the roles that we have. And I know you had mentioned, each of the people has an individual role, but one of the nice things about the way that this game is structured with the roles, and Matt, you have a penchant for the asymmetrical roles, is that I'm playing Commander now, right?
Yeah.
And you stole my book, but I'm supposed to be telling you where to read because I'm bossy. But let's say that I want to play. I think that, the operations role looks super cool. We got 4 books to go. Instead of devoting myself to being the commander and leveling up myself as a character
For the eternity of our playthrough of this game.
I could say I'm the commander and I'm telling you
And as
I'm captain now.
And as a commander, that would be completely fine.
But it's super easy just to switch up the roles and what the task that you're doing.
Right.
So I thought that was really neat.
I agree. Okay, so jumping into constructive criticisms, this is the part of the stream where we talk about what aspects of the game we might change if given the opportunity. And remember, I mean, well, this technically isn't our first playthrough, but
It's mine.
it's Anne's first playthrough. This is Josh and I's second playthrough. We're only playing one scenario, so this is definitely a grain of salt section that I would take with it. So, Josh, I'm going to start on your end of the table here. Any constructive criticism?
No, like my biggest thing, and it's not a complaint,
He's gonna
is
say it.
it's an activity, not a game, technically, because there's no win or lose. Because as you said, you can play and fumble your way through the whole game, and you make progress.
Right.
And that's nothing against the game. That's how it was designed. And I
Nothing against the what?
nothing against the activity, but it's fun. I enjoy it. It's not against it. It's just if you're looking for something where you can win or lose, this is not the thing for you.
It's not the destination, it's the journey.
And I don't disagree. It's just if someone's looking for that
Right.
win lose thing,
Yes,
this isn't going to
right.
be what you want to look for. This is not a you make the wrong choice, you die kind of thing. It's you make the
Absolutely.
wrong choice and you end up stealing a turnip spaceship and flying miserably across the stars to some other place.
And that goes a little bit, I think, even to the roles. Like, you're not leveling up you. You're not competing against anything. This is a trip on a story.
Right.
And the rules is just to like help manage all the little bookkeeping stuff that's happening. As we played, there was a lot of interchanging of roles because how the stream is and stuff like that. No one was really dedicated to something. It just kind of helps make the game easier to play and make it a little bit more manageable for each player.
Mm-hmm. Anne?
So the one thing that I do want to talk about or point out is that we are very fortunate to have, the game designer, the game creator, and Chris on stream with us, and we get the benefit of having people who have made the game explain the game to us, somebody who knows everything about the game. So sometimes it's hard to see whether a game is very intuitive or not, but one thing that I noticed was that I did not feel like the directions for this game were very intuitive. I felt like I relied very much so on Chris saying, okay, well, to start the game, you just do this. And I understand that there are, rule booklets to everything that explain how to do everything, but I kind of feel like even with the mission board slot, it would have been nice if at the end of the mission board it said, okay, if something like a QRG that said, if all of these slots are full, go to the spot in the book that
Can
says
you
this
explain
thing.
what QRG is?
Quick reference guide, sorry.
Thank you.
Apologize. I think that's something that, pointed me to the because there's also multiple items in this. Like, everything is not on the mission board. I'm working from the mission board, or I'm working in the book, or I'm working in the planner or the agenda. So it would be nice to have that little thing that just reminded me to point me in the right direction.
Fair enough. One thing to note is that we actually don't have a rule book. So that could be a reason why the rules are unclear. We simply have a storybook here.
Yeah.
And so we relied solely on Chris to explain to us what the rules were
Right.
in terms of how to process the actions that are available, how to move down the mission board, and when a mission is complete, when to look for it in the book. But again, I don't think it was a little awkward the first time we stumbled a little bit with it, but by midway through the chapter, we
yeah.
were completely all in on it. So I don't think that it's necessarily a huge downside to the board, to the game. And
Are you invalidating my opinion?
Huh?
Are you invalidating?
No. I understand what you're saying, though. I think a quick reference guide that maybe gives a flow of
that's
check
kinda-
which actions are available on which quests, perform actions in spaces that it's available on the board, and then this is maybe even have just a breakdown of this is how you get your code.
Yeah. And to the same point too, and this may go more toward the span of the age ranges who this game may be accessible to. I love the mechanism here, where you have to line up the map pieces on the board with the background of the map. Absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
Younger kids, I don't see, like, I could see David getting real frustrated
If
and
something
flipping the
doesn't
table.
line up properly.
Absolutely. I mean, my son is 10. My son is gifted, and sometimes when he doesn't get things right away, he gets very frustrated. There are adults like that. So I think it would. I think that it would be phenomenal or really helpful if there was somewhere a piece of paper with the answer key.
Like a cheat sheet. Actually, 100% agree with that.
That you could put away, like you don't have to play with it, but just like even on, there was the cheat sheet somewhere.
I love that because even still, there might be just one that I know Josh was having trouble finding the one that was on the top of the map, and he was just kind of. I mean, we are playing upside down, so benefit of the doubt. But it's one of those where sometimes it might just be a real pain to find where it is. So if you'd rather progress the story and instead of fiddle with the thing, maybe a cheat sheet for the map placement would be beneficial.
Just a slight note, since we have a prototype, the map and the card also have slightly different coloring on them. One is darker than the other.
I don't really notice that.
This is a shade darker than the clouds here. And if that helped throw me off, it might also be my color blindness.
Yeah.
As a part of it. So, but that's what was the little bit more difficult thing was I couldn't match colors, and I thought this color scheme was a little bit more over here.
Fair
and
enough.
I was looking in this section and not.
I kind of
in this
assumed
guy.
that was intentional because a lot of puzzles do that. Like they give a map and it's kind of like a grayed out version. Like it's not active; it's inactive, so it's more.
For map placement, having a faint letter code to show you the corner. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe even have like what grid number it should go into, just so you can align it yourself.
Yep.
That would be very beneficial. Personally, I really liked it. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head that
I think of one thing.
What?
I want chapter 2.
Yeah.
Chapter 3.
I won chapter 2, chapter 3. Absolutely. No, I think the game played splendidly. The interactivity was really good, and I liked the game gave you obvious choices and definitely not obvious choices for what you can do with the game. So I rather enjoyed that aspect of it. So with that, any other constructive criticisms from Anne or Josh?
No.
All right, so you know what that means? Most important question of the evening, would you play this game again? Josh?
Can we play more now?
I'm assuming that's a yes then?
Yeah.
Anne?
It's definitely a yes. This game, this activity, I'm totally all in.
For me, it's a not if but when.
Yeah.
We will be playing this game again. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And yeah, just check marks across the board.
This isn't the game that I'm going to pull out when my gamer group really wants something very competitive.
Right.
But this is definitely the light, fun game. And the story, I'm intrigued with the story, just all by itself. I would play this by myself, like one player. That's why I was asking Julia, and that's an important note for you folks at home. This game does support a one-player variant, so I would totally sit there with the book and the markers and make the ship noises
You know
myself.
what? I can see us getting together, having like a bottle or two of wine, and then appetizers, and playing this game, and just having a grand old time exploring. Like the Plumplin universe and stuff like that.
Stealing
turnip ships, getting into trouble, arguing about the different scenarios, and having like 20-minute logical explanations and arguments over the moralities of stealing a cabbage ship.
An imaginary cabbage
It's
ship.
also good. So one of the fun things is you get an action command, and then you get locations, and you have to defer what you think will happen when you go there. So we were like, oh, tinker at the mansion. We're going to go steal a ship.
Exactly.
And we happened to be right about it. We could have been totally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it was, this is what we think is going to happen. And then what actually happens might not be.
It could have been fix a toilet at the Plumplin residence in reality. But it's inferring what could possibly happen and possibly being very wrong about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the fun part of the social part where you're like, I think if we go here, this is going to happen. And this would be awesome. And they'd be like, yes or no, or that is better than what you expected.
Absolutely. So with that, thank all of you for joining us today and watching at home. If you're watching on demand, make sure that you go back and watch the the spotlight session of 1001 Odysseys if you haven't had a chance to see it yet. If you're watching live, thank you for joining us, and go watch it on demand also. We would like to shout out to Asmati Games and 1001 Odysseys for sponsoring this stream and all of this week's streams. And then finally, there is a link to the Kickstarter. Go check it out. Show your support. They're up until the end of February. So we got a couple weeks left on that.
Yeah.
And some stretch goals for additional story items I saw in there as well.
For the backers, the Kickstarter itself is interactive. So, get in there, go in the comments section, and help guide the intro period, the prologue that they're building in the campaign.
Fantastic. So signing off for now, I'm Matt
I'm Ann.
I'm Josh.
with Twist Gaming. Good night, everyone.
Good night.